Welcome to Hope Talks podcast with Grayson Willis and Pastor Margaret Michael, where you'll hear inspiring stories that are filled with hope and good news in Jesus Christ. You can also search for our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and TuneIn. We would love your feedback and invite you to take a short anonymous survey. You can find the link to the survey in the show notes.
Welcome to today's broadcast of Hope Talks. I'm Grayson Willis.
And I'm Pastor Margaret Michael. It's so good to have you all here today. And today you will get to hear from our guest, Brooke Pangle. Brooke, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I had a long day of professional development and a work day, so that was pretty relaxing compared to having some kiddos. So.
Yeah, that's a little bit different from going into the classroom with a classroom full of children, so I'm sure that was a nice change.
Yeah.
So, Brooke, if you'd like to just start out telling us a little bit about where you're from and about how you grew up.
Okay. Well, I am from the area. I grew up in Mount Sidney. I went to Fort Defiance High School, so I'm very familiar with the Augusta County area. When I was growing up, I lived with my grandma for a little bit, and then I moved in with my mom. My mom has a disability to where sometimes she has seizures, sometimes she has blackouts, and she also has fibromyalgia. So growing up, I had to deal with that a lot, and kind of like my dad worked night shift, so I had to kind of take that role of ensuring she was okay if I heard a noise or if she had a seizure. But other than that, growing up, I was very creative, very involved in my school, really loved yearbook and photography, kind of pushed me to be where I am today. And then I went to Bridgwater College, graduated with a degree in art and a minor in communications. And that was in 2022.
Yeah, I think I met you during those college years.
Yeah.
Showed up at my house one night. We'll get to that. So I know when I met you, you were actually working in another church, leading worship. And so what was your introduction to the church? Like, how old were you, and what was that like?
I was probably about 4 or 5 years old. I remember it very clearly. My sister's father, we have different dads, was a pastor in Annex United Methodist Church in Stanton.
Okay.
So one day I was asked if I wanted to go to church. I got my pretty dress on, my blue little purse, and my little flats, and I went to church with my sisters. It was my first introduction to anything like that. My Sunday school teacher, her name's Sharon, she would always recall that day because I got my arm stuck in a chair and started screaming. And so that was her first recollection of me as well. So, but I started going to that church, like I said, around 4, and kind of started going there ever since. Then my sisters kind of, when their dad left that church to go pastor somewhere else, I still kind of stayed there and just kind of kept my roots there for a while until I came here.
So you mentioned Sharon. I have a feeling that Sharon played a role in your life.
Oh, yeah.
Let's hear about Sharon. I love to hear about these people that invest in children. It's so important.
All right.
Just the foundation.
So Sharon, her name is Sharon Armentrout. She originally got involved in leading Sunday school on accident. Mm-hmm. She says it was a God moment because she was sitting in a meeting and they were talking about, probably for like the 5th time, about how they need somebody to lead the teen Sunday school class. And she suddenly out of her mouth said she'd do it. She doesn't remember wanting to do it or anything. She just yelled it out and then realized that it must have been a God thing.
Yeah.
She is a strong woman, God-fearing. A lot of what I've learned has come from her, especially when it comes to my care generally for all people. She has always been somebody who, no matter who they are, what they are, completely cares about them. Every time she meets somebody new, especially around a teenager age that would come to her Sunday school class, she would always start by saying, here's my number. If you ever get in a situation where you're too scared to call your parents, too scared to call somebody else, I will come and pick you up no matter what. She really cares about everyone she meets, and I really strive to be like that.
Yeah, good role model, and good, just amazing how we respond, like she did in that meeting, like, did those words just come out of my mouth? But the impact that made on you, and I'm sure on her, as she led the teens. Yeah. So you ended up being a part of, like, you continued to be there, went through high school. You talked about being creative. Mm-hmm. Tell us about that. What was it like as when Brooke was a young girl to be creative? What did that look like?
Well, when I was young, like I said, I started out living with my grandma around 4. My grandma and I would write books together. We would, of course, I couldn't really write then, but I would tell her what I wanted her to write. And then I would draw the pictures. I have a picture, one of those pictures put up in my classroom right now so the kids can see the transition of, maybe that doesn't really look realistic, but look where I am now. So I started out drawing with her, and I would take those books into my kindergarten class, and we'd read them together. And then she always encouraged me to do art and continue with it. She helped me join this contest in kindergarten that I came in as runner-up or something. I drew a dinosaur. I don't remember why I drew a dinosaur or what it was about, but she was one of the people in my life that really encouraged me to continue with art. So when I got to high school, I kind of focused on that and went all the way to AP and continued into college with that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And Brooke, as you were talking about attending church and the lady that invested in you, and you said you started going there at 4 or 5, but at what age did you come to decide that you wanted to accept Christ into your heart personally and make that decision to grow deeper in your relationship with him?
So I feel like when I first started going to that church, it was more so like something to do. My sisters went there. Like, I wanted to be like my sisters because I was the youngest. And so it wasn't until probably about 10 that I fully went head first into really wanting to build a relationship with Christ. I remember I was at Camp Overlook because that was the church camp that we would get sent through our youth group. And I remember there's this thing called Cry Night. Every year they have it. It's usually on a Thursday. And that night you're going to cry whether you want to or not. So I remember it was like a walk to Emmaus kind of style. We would walk by ourselves around the camp, led by little candle lights. And when we were done, we would sit in the chapel by ourselves, spread out. Kind of everybody was just quiet and praying if they wanted to. I was just sitting by myself, and I was just kind of praying to myself, saying, kind of questioning the situation, be like, God, if you're really there, show me or something. And in that moment, probably only 30 seconds after, I had somebody come up and ask to pray for me that I didn't know. I don't remember her name. I don't really remember what she looked like, but she prayed for me, and she prayed about everything that was on my heart that she didn't know about. And so after that moment, I got baptized not too long afterwards, and kind of started that journey being involved in my youth group and making sure that's the path I wanted to be on.
Yeah, that's powerful. You graduated from high school, and what happened? Obviously you went to college, but tell us about that. How did you choose where to go? And
my cousin went to Bridgewater, and I was kind of a copycat at the time, probably still slightly am, but it was something close to home. I originally wanted to commute, but changed my mind after freshman year. So somewhere close, somewhere I could get a decent amount of scholarships. They had a decent art program, and so I kind of went there. And then after getting accepted, I remember that my cousin helped me do a little photo shoot because she had all the Bridgewater gear. So, but yeah, it was just kind of the comfortability of it. And I didn't really like big schools. The thought of going to JMU or something, trying to figure out my way around Harrisonburg at the time. When I started going to Bridgewater, I had no clue what Harrisonburg was like. I only went up there to go to Texas Roadhouse, and that was it.
Really? You were a Stanton girl.
I was Stanton, Waynesboro, yep. Yeah. Born and raised in Augusta County, and not really wanting to drift out. But now I know the back of my hand out here, so that's what Bridgewater did.
Bridgwater got you just a little bit closer. So I know that one evening you showed up to, I have a life group that meets in my house. And one evening you show up to my life group and you were with a young man. And tell us about that. Like, I know that's been life-changing.
Yeah. Well, freshman year, I happened to meet a gentleman named Morgan Pangle. At the time, I was very independent. I actually rejected him at first. I told him, he asked me to go to the movies, and I said no because I was too busy, but I wasn't actually that busy. But I was fully focused on work, wasn't really wanting to do anything outside of just going to classes and work and then going home. But I met him, and he actually, once we started talking, and I just kind of felt like completely comfortable with him. He actually got me to go to crew on campus at Bridgewater, which I ended up eventually getting super involved in, and then ended up bringing me here a few times until I became a member. But yeah.
Tell us about crew. What does that stand for?
I'm pretty sure it's Christian Crusades for Christ. Yes. Yeah. But I started going there for just Monday meetings. Occasionally when I happened to be scheduled off, I worked at Ross. So like they worked me whenever they could. But then after I started going, I kind of changed my schedule to be Monday nights off because I was starting to enjoy the kind of community that was built there. And then after, I think about sophomore year or starting sophomore year, I think it was after sophomore year, I was asked to be a Bible study leader. So it kind of went from there into my involvement.
Yeah. So you became a leader there and participated through your senior year?
Senior year, I was actually the worship leader. So,
really?
Cool. Yeah. So I helped pick the songs every week and kind of build the worship team and help lead the songs every week.
Yeah, I did not realize that. That's really cool. And Morgan was involved in that as well, right?
Yeah, he was actually the men's Bible study leader.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. This is our college kids, right? People think, oh, the college kids they're doing what we see college kids doing on Fridays and Saturdays, but that's not every college kid on every college campus. So that I just want to do a shout out to those that are really seeking Jesus, and doesn't mean your life's perfect, right? But you're seeking Jesus. So that's really powerful, and I just celebrate that with you. So you graduated college, and what happened next? Did you get the job first, or?
So I kind of got a job, but it didn't work out. And then so after that job didn't work out, I was kind of scrambling last second for a job. The school that Morgan works at was hiring for a long-term substitute position. So it happened to be for world languages and American Sign Language, which I have a little bit of knowledge in each. So I applied quickly and was accepted to work there. Not long after that, I decided that I wanted to go back into teaching full-time because I started out in the education program at Bridgewater, but I didn't get to finish. So once I made that decision, I was working my way to what I needed to do to teach art eventually. When a position opened up at Waynesboro High School for a photography teacher, I thought that was perfect for me. I was so excited. I love photography. That's like what I love doing in my free time. It's like was my focus in college. I applied, I interviewed, and I didn't get the job. So after that, I was kind of distraught, but the person that got the job was actually an elementary school art teacher. And so I was like, well, I guess they offered me that job. I might as well take it, until the art teacher at the middle school was like, I want to go back to elementary school.
Wow.
And I was like, well, I don't really want to leave the middle school. I like the middle school. I like the kids here. Husband's here. Yeah. And it's just comfortable for me. So starting in January of last year, I became the art teacher at Kate Collins Middle School, and I've taught there ever since.
That is amazing. And I just think about, and I'm not sure when you all started, but you also were helping with small groups here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. For youth.
Yeah, for the youth here. So obviously, kids are important to you. Mm-hmm. And I think that when we have people that impact our lives when maybe we're not, you shared earlier about your mom and just the health things that she had going on. And, I can only imagine as a young girl having to help when there was seizures, and I'm sure that was a little traumatic. But I know that you have such a heart for kids, right? And you want to be there for other people like Sharon was there for you. Mm-hmm. I love that, kind of paying it forward. And do you want to share anything about that?
Well, so one of the reasons I got into teaching so long ago is because, I feel like every year, a teacher impacted me in a different way. Starting with kindergarten, I had a teacher, her name was Miss Whitescarver. She was amazing. I loved her. I would go visit her every day. When I got into first grade, got in trouble a few times for it because I wasn't supposed to be there, but she didn't mind. And then just that impact of her, loving all her students and caring about all her students, no matter what they were going through at home, made an impact on me. She actually eventually, I think it was about in third grade, she passed away from cancer while working there. And we helped build, I think there was a tree we planted. It was a long time ago, but there was a tree we planted, and I was able to write a news article in our little school Clymore Cardinals newsletter, which was fun. Another two teachers that kind of impacted me were two high school teachers. Miss Her was my art teacher, and Miss Wilfong, or she became Miss Russell because she got married while I was there, was my yearbook teacher. And so high school was a really hard time for me. I dealt with a lot of loss. I started out by losing my godmother, and then it just kind of went downhill, spiraled from there until my senior year. Right after we started back to school, my sister was actually told that she only had 3 to 5 days left to live. She had breast cancer. So that whole period during the beginning of my senior year was just kind of hard. And it just trying to understand why would this happen and things. And even my church community at the time, my teachers, when I came back to school, they made me cards based on the memes I liked and got me flowers, and that meant a lot to me. And then my church community, they brought us food and stuff. And I was the only one really involved there still, but they still reached out to us because they cared about us and cared about our well-being. And so after that moment, it was kind of when I decided that God has a purpose in this. It's kind of like the song and then the verse, God takes what the enemy means for evil and turns it into good.
Yeah.
And that moment, I feel like I mourned more for her before it happened than after it happened because I knew she was at peace.
Yeah.
And from that moment on, I decided that whatever I do with my life, I want to do by impacting the community the way I have been impacted. And that's kind of why I decided to teach and continue into teaching and help the kids the best way I can.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what an opportunity to be light in the world, right? And just the fact that how you were impacted, you didn't take that and just go, well, I'm so glad these people poured into me, but I see you pouring into other people, and obviously that's just what you've done.
And Margaret mentioned it briefly a few minutes ago, but if you'd like to share about the few years that you and Morgan, I know y'all volunteered as small group leaders here for Movement.
Yeah, we started out volunteering for Movement. Well, he did it a few years earlier than I did, but then I met with Olivia, and Olivia was like, hey, I think you'd be good at this. I was like, okay, let me try it. I really enjoy doing it while I did. It was just the distance that was kind of the issue because we live in Stewart's Draft. But that's the only reason we stopped. But I love the connection I built with my girls, just checking in on them, seeing them go into the things that they were doing at their schools and talking about, seeing them grow in their faith. It kind of re-emphasized that I'm doing what I need to be doing.
Yeah. It's just real easy to see that you really do have a heart to minister. And I'm just going out on a limb, but I'm guessing you're ministering to an age where you really needed to be ministered to.
Yeah, I think that in middle school, I kind of didn't know where I was supposed to be, and it took until high school for me to really figure that out. But my goal with my kids is, especially because I know a lot of my kids are dealing with hard lives at home, are troubled, or kind of deal with insecurities. Like, I want them to understand that my classroom is a safe space, and that they can come to me if they need anything, or like if they just need some encouragement for their day. And that, like, I will work my best to support them in what they need.
Yeah. That's powerful. So your last name changed.
It used to be to Chico.
That's right. So you all have been, I'm trying to think the date of your wedding. I should know that, right? Been married a few months now.
Yep. It was May 6th is when we got married. And we've been really blessed with everything that's kind of come into place afterwards. We've both been blessed with really awesome jobs and being able to work together. We just bought a house, and we didn't think we were going to be able to buy a house like this, but it was a 4-bedroom house in the same area we like, not too far from work. We got married in May, and that's after about 5 years of dating, and we're coming up on about half a year married, so it's really exciting, and I'm just really blessed to have the relationship with him and the circumstances we have, especially at the young age of 23.
Yes, it is. You all have some accomplishments for sure.
Brooke, what else would you like to share with us? Things in your, we call this program Hope Talks. So what in your life right now gives you hope?
Well, I've noticed throughout my life, I kind of started living by a Bible verse. It's one that a lot of people reference, but it's Isaiah 43:2. When you walk through deep waters, I will be with you. I might only be 23, but I feel like in my 23 years of living, I've experienced a lot of things that not everybody, maybe my age, have experienced. Between when I was younger, losing a house, living with my grandma for a few years, and then having to move back with my parents and adjusting back to kind of that normal routine of family, to my mom's stuff. Whatever I experienced through life, I've always gotten through it. And God has always guided me through it and brought me out of it. So one time I went to the beach, and when I went to the beach, I wanted a memory of the beach. So I got a tattoo based on that Bible verse. So that way I could remember in the times that even if it doesn't feel like it, God is going to be there and he's going to guide me through it. The other thing is I can't swim. So it even stands further for me, because when I feel like I'm in the deep end of the pool, barely hanging on the edge, God's going to pull me out of it.
Yeah. When we walk through deep waters, I think those are the places that we find out that God is faithful to us and that he is in the water with us, closer than our circumstances. And I know that you and Morgan both have experienced things that those of us here, even at the table, Grayson and I, we haven't even experienced some of the things that you all have. And that does speak to your depth of knowing the Lord at a young age, and just seeing how God has orchestrated your all's coming together. And I just loved so much when we were doing your premarital counseling, just getting to know you all together and understanding like the things that you've both been through and how God has put you all together, and you both care so much about kids, and obviously you were impacted as a young child. So, those times are so hard. People listening today, maybe a young person that's in a place that just don't know how they'll get through, but hindsight's 20/20, right? Like we can look back. You can look back and see, maybe you couldn't see in the moment what God was doing, but you can look back now and see where he was holding you. And I think Morgan could say the same thing. And now you have that to share with others. And, in a school setting, it's a little different. I know that. But there are ways that you can be there impact the students, show them the love of Christ, that they know there's something different. You know, I can look back in my life and see people in my life that impacted me greatly, and I didn't realize at the time what was happening. But looking back, I can see that it was definitely people God put in my life. And now he's using you in the lives of other people.
So, Brooke, just in the final minutes that we have here, anything else about your testimony, about your life, maybe any advice from the things we've talked about that you've gone through as a young person that you would like to share, maybe that we haven't asked you already or that you haven't shared already?
I will say that something that has always been important to me after, especially that has been told to me when I went through some of the stuff that I went through, is taking things one day at a time. Things maybe seem scary looking ahead because you're thinking about like the what ifs, or what if, like, how is it going to feel without that person there? Or what if I don't get this opportunity that I really want? Taking it one day at a time definitely has gotten me to slow down and appreciate what God is doing in the moment, rather than trying to look forward and worry if he's going to provide or anything, because I know he will provide.
Yeah, he has proved that, right? Yeah. He has proved that.
Yeah, that sounds like just trust, a deep trust in him. And surrender. What does surrender look like to you, to his will for your life?
Definitely something that I'm doing right now with my kids at school is I'm devoting a lot of time to things that maybe they wouldn't have experienced otherwise. Morgan and I just took over SEA together, which the kids have loved because they get to pick on us together. And then I also took over yearbook, and we do art club after school. Originally, there has been some things that people have stepped back from just because it was too much on their plates, like other teachers holding clubs or doing things. My thing is I want the kids to be able to experience something and that they can get something out of, and maybe even like me showing them the love of Christ, kind of without actually saying it, since it's public school. But that's where I feel like I've been surrendering most to God, is actually surrendering my time to my kids, and making sure that they feel that love and feel like they're appreciated and feel like they're worthy, because they might not feel it during the school day or with other teachers or even at home. So I feel like that's where he's pulling me most towards now, and ensuring that I kind of give that time to.
Yeah, that's at the end of the day when your teaching is complete, you could go home. But you are both choosing to stay there and invest deeper in an atmosphere where it's a little different from the day. And just thinking about, like, your all's giftings and being able to help them to be creative and to process through art is, I think, it's a ministry in itself to do that. So that's just powerful. Just grateful for what you are doing and going back kind of into your community and investing back into the kids. Thank you. Thank you for doing that and to be a part. I know that Morgan also coaches, right? He does he coaches some tennis too. And I just see you all being a very vital part of the school family beyond just a job.
Well, Brooke, thank you for joining us today on Hope Talks and sharing your testimony. It's been great to have you.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm just going to say a prayer for you and for Morgan in closing. And Lord, I just pray for Brooke, and I thank you for her testimony, Lord, and for her willingness to come share with us, Lord. And I pray a blessing over her and Morgan and the students that they're ministering to and being a light to in the schools, Lord. And I just thank you for their willingness to serve kids and to be a light to them, Lord. And I pray a blessing over their lives and their marriage, Lord. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for listening to today's broadcast of Hope Talks. I pray that as you've heard Brooke Pangle's testimony today, that it truly has been a half hour of hope for your life. May God bless.
Hope Talks is sponsored by Church of the Nazarene Harrisonburg in partnership with Sunshine Ministries.
Thanks for listening to today's podcast of Hope Talks. If you enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe for updates and the latest episodes. Also, if you're in the Harrisonburg-Rockingham County area, we invite you to listen on the radio each Sunday at noon on 1470 AM or 102.1 FM WBTX.